Caroline, I'm really looking forward to you joining us, and I know that everyone else in the church family is as well. So I thought I'd just have this time to ask you a few questions, some that the church family have inputted into, just to get to know you a little bit, so that you can introduce yourself in a sense to the church family. So I've got a list of questions that people have shared with me on Facebook and email and things. I'm just going to go through them now, and I look forward to getting to know you a bit more as well as you answer these questions. So the first question that I wanted to ask you is, how did you come to be living in Wiltshire? And I know you don't live in Warminster, and you can share about that.
I'm actually in West Lavington, which the reason that I've ended up there is because my parents used to have a garage in Hampshire, and in the petrol crisis back in the 70s it would have been, their garage went under. That just wasn't viable anymore. My dad was absolutely wonderful. He stayed for a year down in Hampshire, rounding it all up so that nobody was left unpaid and all the debts were paid.
Great.
But we ended up moving to Wiltshire, to West Lavington, because my brothers were at school at Daunces. And we ended up camping in a local field, because in those days, if you're in the catchment area for sixth form, you could go for free. And I ended up going for free by camping, and they just opened it for girls. I was one of the first girls there. And that's how we ended up in Wiltshire in West Lavington. And then I've travelled around a bit, but come back to West Lavington because that's where the family was.
Great. Oh, it must be nice to have those roots and to be living where you've had, experiences throughout your life.
It is.
You're quite well known around there, I imagine, as well, are you?
But one of the worst things is that Mum and Dad were incredibly well known. They were very strong churchgoers, but also involved in community, hugely involved in community, from running the local dramatic society to the school shop. My dad delivered wood to different people. Actually ended up on television programme about the local people in Wiltshire and what they did, and he was cutting up logs and delivering them to people. So actually, when I moved back to Wiltshire after moving away and seeking my fortune, people knew me and I didn't know them, and it's taken a long time to actually get to know the names that have gone with a lot of the faces. But yes, it's lovely to feel very supported in your own community.
Yeah, well, I think your experience in Warminster might be a bit like that. In ministry, lots of people will know you.
Yes.
And you won't know them. It's kind of part and parcel of being ordained, I think.
Yes, and it's nice if we could turn this on the table and actually ask each person all these questions that you're asking me today, so that we then could actually get to know everybody as well.
Yeah, that'd be really good. That'd be great. Oh, that's really great. Thanks for sharing that. It's really interesting to hear about your connection for Wiltshire, which has been for a long, long time, isn't it? So that's really good. Thinking wider, someone's asked, what's your favourite city or place in the world? Big question that is, and why?
Well, I've been very lucky that we've had some lovely holidays and gone to different cities. But do you know what? And this is my boring answer, I'm afraid. I love London. I absolutely love London. And I think some of that is to do with the fact that there's a familiarity to it. So you can go and you can, if you're taking somebody to London, you do the usual things, you Buckingham Palace and Trafalgar Square, take them to Harrods, and you know where to take them that's going to be of interest to them. But you can also pop up and do one of those guided walking tours, which you then just put a donation in for, and you see the most extraordinary little streets and hear the most extraordinary stories about it. And it helps that I've got two boys, both who work in London, so sometimes it's going up to actually meet them for lunch and then whizzing back down again. And one of the most wonderful things I've done recently was I went up for a Remembrance Sunday, getting on the train from Salisbury, the train absolutely jam-packed solid of people going up there, most of them in uniform with their medals on, everybody chatting and talking about war experiences, where they were going, what they were going to do when they got to Westminster.
Wow.
So I just love London, and I think it's a beautiful city, and I think we're very, very lucky to have it on our doorsteps.
Great. Oh, I bet you can't wait to be able to go to London once all this lockdown's over.
very much so. Really
Yeah.
looking forward to it. The first lunchtime with my boys will be really special.
Oh, I bet. And the next question's more people focused. And the question is, what surprises people about you? That's a good question. I love that one. So
I like it too. It's a tricky one though, isn't it? Because actually, I think we all have a bit of a persona that we sort of, we look. Well, I try and look organised and as though I'm intelligent and all these other things. And it was very funny because we've just had Saturday this week was our last college day. And the principal of the college, James Woodward, actually had a word for each one of us. And he actually had a chat and explained some of the things that he felt he'd seen us growing in our faith or growing in.
Oh, how nice.
Absolutely very special. And he was very brave to do that, I think. And he got to me and he said, well, Caroline, just saw you in a new light just from the other day. And the reason was that we'd been doing a day on death and bereavement, and it'd been very poignant, a very, very good day. And we were sharing some of the resources that we'd come across. And one of the things that I was suggesting could be a resource to people was the Ricky Gervais program called Afterlife. It's a Netflix program.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's great.
Oh, you got through the bad language at the beginning. I mean, you have to get through that. You think, woo, it's a little bit strong, but wow, what a wonderful program, and how you end up empathizing with people who've had that sort of trauma of a partner dying. And I thought it was brilliant. Anyway, he could not get over, he'd not seen that side of me. So he doesn't realise I'm actually quite naughty underneath it.
Yeah, he was shocked. I love that. Oh, that's great. Thank you. You've shared a bit about your passion for that programme and the people watching aspect of it. What are you passionate about generally? What kind of things are you passionate about?
Well, obviously, I've got to say God, spirituality. I mean, if you look at my bookshelves and music and things, you will see that is reflected within those things there. And even just little statues and things around the house. So that's obviously a first. But what else am I passionate about? Family. I absolutely love the fact that I come from a very close family, very supportive family, and I want to be able to provide that for the family around us as well. And I'm absolutely passionate about my dogs. We love our dogs, and now that the children are all of an age where they're out and working and don't need us in the same way, we are besotted with dogs. My golden retriever had puppies 2 years ago. We had 12 golden retriever puppies in the house.
Oh, how nice.
It was brilliant.
That's really ironic. My dog started barking as you're talking about dogs.
She's empathetic. She can hear that it's all positive and things.
Yeah.
But we went to the extent of, we turned the garage into a gym for them, a puppy gym. They had a wet area, a play area, mud area. They had tunnels. They had stuff hanging down from the ceiling. And we just had so much fun with them. We run the dog show every year at our village fete. So.
Oh, great. So how many dogs have you got now?
We've only got 2, although it is tempting to think about a third. But 2's lovely because they're family still. I think as soon as you get 3, they become much more pack-like and much more into themselves rather than just ladling sort of their adoration on you.
That's great. Oh, well, some lovely dog walks around Warminster. I'll have to bring them over with you.
I'm looking forward to it. I've done some cycling around Warminster, but I haven't actually dog walked there yet. So.
Oh, some lovely places to go. You definitely need to. You need to try that. The next question's a good one. This comes from Facebook, and it's asking about your top 3 books, but with the Bible as a given. So not the Bible, but top 3 books. And I love this, really interesting, and luxury you can't do without whilst isolating. That's a really good question.
Okay, well, let's do the books first of all.
Yeah.
My background is in education. I was a head teacher of primary school, and I absolutely adore good children's books. And I particularly like them when they've got that level of you're reading them to a child or they're reading them to you, and actually there's an adult level to them as well. So I have to say that The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe and the Narnia books, I just absolutely love them. I think they're wonderful, wonderful books, and a fabulous way in for unchurched families, you know, just to start getting that lovely glimpse of God through Aslan. I think it's just fantastic. And on that same sort of thing, the Philip Pullman books, which are slightly more contentious, but actually I still think that there's terrific food for thought within those as well. Recently, I gave my husband the Charlie Mackesy book, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. I don't know if you know that one. It's the one with the cartoons. I've actually got it here. I've been sharing it with the grandchildren during Zoom time. And you can just pick one of them. And the lovely illustrations, the lovely writing that he does. And he's one of the Alpha candidates. He came through Alpha. Nicky Gumbel, but just really lovely sort of thoughts for the day within there. Love those. And then novel-wise, one of the ones that I've read recently was my sister put me onto this. I've got to remind myself of it. All the Light We Cannot See, Anthony Doerr, which was just a lovely, lovely book about a blind girl and a boy who actually meet during wartime. One is a Nazi and the other is in was it Channel Islands or France, and that was just a lovely story.
Oh, that sounds great. I think I might have to write that one down.
I'll send you the link. It's really good, really good book.
That's really helpful. What about the second half of that question? It's a bit trickier. What luxury that you can't do without whilst isolating?
Yeah, so isolating. I think it was remarkable, wasn't it, when we first went into isolation, that first week, we weren't able to get food or anything straight away. We do have Abel and Cole who deliver us our organic veg, and fortunately they kept going, but it was severely reduced sort of stuff that was coming through. The one thing that I started to panic about quite quickly was the dog food, because the dogs actually have the same food every week, and I thought, if I can't get that and they've got to change, they're not going to be well on it. And But then I have to say the other thing was wine. I do enjoy my glass of wine. And the one thing that I would have been really sad if I hadn't been able to get would have been my glass of wine and the weekends and things like that, which we really enjoy that together. So
Oh, that's great. It's really good. Really good to hear you sharing and to get to know you a little bit more. And these are great questions. Really grateful for those that posted them on Facebook or emailed them to me. Really helpful. I'm going to continue in that vein of things that you're into, and then after that, it'd be good just to know a little bit about your faith journey. But just getting to know you and the things that you're into. One of our younger people has asked about music or your favourite artist, and they particularly wanted to know secular, because lots of people at Christchurch are really into some recent production Christian music. So they want to kind of, I don't know if you are, but they want to leave that to one side and ask you about secular music. What's your favourite music or artist?
Do you know, this one was one I found really hard to think about, because I actually, I love classical music as well as modern music as well. I like sort of the more thoughtful modern music, Tracy Chapman, that type of thing that's got a
great
beat, and it makes you sit up and think when you hear the lyrics. So that I'm not massively into the most modern, and I think that's partly because the children are slightly old. Well, they've left. I need some younger children around me, don't I, to get back into it again. But then it is the sort of Elgar, the Bach, the Handel. I actually really enjoy my classical music. I like Taizé. Sorry, I'm drifting into religious music, but Taizé and worship songs as well.
Right.
But I'll listen to anything. One of my favourite things at school was the school disco. I was well known, which is quite unusual because heads generally hate the school discos. They're really painful. Well, I love them. Well, I love them, and I get onto that dance floor and I danced all night to whatever was coming up. So Kaiser Chiefs and things like that, anything like that. So again, I'm showing my age because it's all a bit dated, but I would just, just thoroughly enjoy that. And if any of the children were messing around, I'd go and dance with them. That stopped them messing around. Break away. Poor souls.
Oh, brilliant. What a great thing to do as a head. I bet they love that. I bet the
They
children
did, actually. When it came to my leaving cards and things, there were a lot of them that had... I have a wonderful disco hat that's got a disco ball on its head, which revolves round with lights flashing.
Oh,
and,
wow.
If I was dancing with the children, we'd take the hat off and share it round so that they'd be dancing with it as well. And so there were lots of pictures of the disco hat in my leaving cards.
Oh, wow. I think we need to see that. That sounds great. I loved you sharing about books and a real variety there as well. Someone's asked about films. Are there any films that your favourite films, or films that have really impacted you or that are really special to you?
Favourite all-time film is Forrest Gump. I just love it.
Yeah.
And actually, it was really funny because I was sharing this with Mark, my husband, last night, and I said, I can't think of a film that I've more enjoyed than that. He said, well, why? And I said, there's a good question. And I think it's because he is the most unheroic hero. He's not clever, he falls into things, and yet he's just got this wisdom about him that actually he's able to get on with people, he gets on with life, he gives it all, he lives a good life. And I just think it's unassuming, and it just shows that everybody is special, and I love it. I think it's a lovely film.
Oh, that's great. We share that. That's my favourite film as well.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
When you start doing social sermons and things at Christchurch, let me know if you want any quotes. I've got a book on my bookshelf behind me of Forrest Gump quotes.
Oh, brilliant. That's really good.
Because, you're right. I love it. That's really nice. Got something in common there.
Yeah,
I love that
definitely.
film.
Yeah.
I love that film too. I thought it'd be good to talk a bit about your relationship with God and your faith. It'd be really nice for people to get to know that side of you. So I thought I'd begin. This kind of question is one that they'd ask at a Bishop's Advisory panel, I think. Can you tell us about an encounter?
Do that again. That was hard.
Exactly. Can you tell us about an encounter with God that has impacted positively on your faith journey? And that's a massive question, but hopefully you've been able to think about it a bit.
Yeah, no, I was glad to be forewarned on that one. There's one big encounter that I feel that has been really formative in my life. I was born and brought up into a Christian family, and going to church was a regular thing all the way through childhood. I did confirmation at 12, and it was a very special feeling. The Portsmouth Cathedral that I was confirmed in, and it was all very serious for me. But I, like a lot of Christians of my age, it didn't become real and pertinent and a personal faith and a personal relationship until quite a lot later. And in fact, I think it really happened when I came away from the faith, really, or came away from going to church when my children were younger, when I was first married. And my husband, my ex-husband, was not a God-fearing person at all. So it was a period where my own faith just stayed still. And then I had the most extraordinary encounter where I was in North Yorkshire, which is where we were living at the time, and went out for a walk one day up to a local crag. And I walked out in beautiful, beautiful sunshine. I walked up to the top of this hill. And as I got to the top of it, there was some black, ominous clouds that came over. And I actually felt compelled. And I remember sitting down, and the sunshine, the warmth went out it became very, very cold, and it was dark. It was really dark, and it got darker and darker.
Wow.
And I just felt compelled to sit and watch. And I watched, and I have no idea how long I was there for, but eventually I could see that the darkness was going, and it became lighter and lighter and lighter. And eventually I looked behind. It was I hadn't realised I hadn't looked behind. I looked behind, and there was the sun coming out again, and the whole place was flooded again with light, with this bank of clouds just disappearing into the distance.
Wow.
And I felt really, really strongly that was God saying to me that there's going to be some grim times, and it's going to be very, very grim. And at the time when you're in it, you're going to not see any light, but you need to hold on, and you need to just keep there and remember that I am with you. And it just was overwhelmingly the feeling that I had at that time, but that has been such a comfort to me, that when you are going through those grim times, that actually you do have that light that will come. It might not, things might not stay the same again. They may never feel as comfortable or whatever, but actually God is with you, even though it's dark. So I think that's probably the most dramatic, time that I've actually had an encounter, and I felt that was a God encounter.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, that's amazing. And I wonder if you could speak to yourself back then and say that you're about to prepare to become a minister, to be I know the ordination's going to be set back a little bit because of coronavirus, but what do you think you'd have thought if you knew that day that here in 2020 you'd be sat talking to me, ready to begin ministry in the church?
It's really funny, Lorraine, that you should say that, because actually, as I was thinking about this story this morning, I thought, goodness, I had no idea then where God was going to lead me. I had no idea that the relationship that I had with God would deepen so much, and that I would actually be going into the church. I mean, actually, I didn't know that I would be going for ordination 5 years ago.
Wow.
Yes. So for me, because some people, it's been really interesting on our course, some people have known that they've wanted to be ordained since 17, 18, 19. And that certainly wasn't my story at all. Mine's a very different story, where I've just felt more and more confirmed and called into something that I just wasn't expecting to do. But I'm just so grateful that I am, so grateful for the training I've had, and I'm really, really excited. You were talking about at the beginning, and the prayer that you said at the beginning about, me being able to settle in. But one of the things that is so lovely for me, and I'd love people to know, is how excited I am to be coming to Christchurch, and just benefiting from their stories and their faith, and learning from them as well. Very exciting.
Oh, great. And as you know, I'm reasonably new, and there are some wonderful people in the church family, and some great inspiring stories when you hear people's walk with a faith and how they've got to where they are now. So you're in for a real treat. Thinking about coming here, and is there anything else that you on your heart about coming to join us at Christchurch that you want to share, your hopes and dreams, or how are you feeling about it all? I know it's a bit difficult because it's not as it was meant to be. It was meant to be that we all kind of went up to Salisbury and see your ordination and welcome you into Christchurch on a Sunday in church. It's not happening that way, unfortunately, but I'm glad that you're still excited, because I am, because God is on the move, and the church might be closed, but the church is still open for business, isn't it, in new ways? So any extra thoughts you wanted to add at the end of this conversation? Or
one of the things that I'm excited about is the fact that although it's sad that I won't be coming wearing the collar, when I actually am ordained, hopefully it will be the September date, it will be really lovely that the Christchurch family will have got to know me and actually understand that it's me, they know me that's going forward for that, which I think is in some ways much nicer, that they actually will have a sense of who I am by that point, which is lovely.
Great.
And the other thing is, I keep getting these lovely ideas. I scribbled down the other day on one of my notes, find out about businesses in Christchurch, in Warminster, find out about this and that. And I keep thinking, no, stop, wait. Let's find out what's happening, what God's doing there. Find out, by listening and seeing, because it sounds as though there's a tremendous amount going on. Yeah. So somebody said, some famous theologian, I'm sure, but basically they said, find out what the action is that God's already doing, and then go and join the action, rather than actually trying to invent something, and things then will open, won't they? And we will start seeing where we can be useful, where we can spread the good news.
Oh, that's great, Caroline. Really great. And I'm looking forward to having you as a colleague and alongside the rest of the church family, discerning where God's calling us next, to see what God's doing and where he wants us to join in. Yep. So I'm looking forward to having you to share in that. And thanks ever so much for answering all of those questions. Hopefully people have got to know you a little bit more, and you're going to be preaching on the 28th, aren't you, on the 28th of June? So that'll be a really great, people will be able to get to know you a bit more there. And as you join us, we'll definitely have some a coffee morning or something like that on Zoom, and find different ways for you to get to know people. But you're in for a treat. It's a lovely church family, and I know that I'm excited. I know that others are really excited about you joining us. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely.